In this video, I'm going to talk about how Elon Musk flipped his stance on cryptocurrency, or at least according to some. Is it the cryptocurrency space, the uninhabitable money of the future, or are things getting mixed up, pears and apples, elephants and oranges, and all that sort of stuff? Stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Chainspotting, where I read and review the two top stories of the week in crypto. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the parts of a mini-series from Slate magazine about the crypto space. It's kind of a hit piece against crypto because it says Trump has forced crypto down or has rammed it down the US or Americans' throat, making it a central part of his government, his campaign, his administration. And now I'm going to talk about how that's affected one of the main men that is a part of his administration, which is Elon Musk, a colorful, curious character, to say the least. So let's jump in. This is titled "The Currency of the Uninhabitable Future. The crypto boosters' agenda for government is going to cook the planet." I can feel people simmering as I speak.
That's weird. But it's weirder that you haven't hired BitWriters, your Bitcoin-focused ghostwriting agency. They've got over 6 years' experience building up blogs, newsletters, and educational email courses. Because not your email, not your audience, not your customers. Link in the description below.
This is by Nitish, Pahwa. I hope I pronounced that right. Once upon a time, not long ago, Elon Musk was worried sick about climate change. Stopping it became an overarching career mission, reflected in both his business decisions and everyday actions. He gave the electric vehicle industry a jolt after taking over Tesla Motors in 2004. He joined President Donald Trump's first Business Advisory Council in 2017, then resigned in protest when Trump withdrew the United States from the Paris Agreement. He directed Tesla to buy up $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in 2021 and accept the cryptocurrency in formal transactions, only to backtrack when he remembered that Bitcoin mining is by design a heavily energy-intensive process that requires masses of fossil fuel-powered computer servers to run at all times. It was such a notorious moment in the crypto world that one speaker led "fuck Elon" chants during that year's Bitcoin conference. What an intro! Straight into it. There's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to tear apart. Let's peel back the onion by continue reading today's article. By the way, remember, stay tuned because I'm going to be reviewing these articles from 1 to 10. 1 being horrendously never should have been written. Maybe that person shouldn't ever type or write again. And 10, magical. What a remarkable thing, then, for Musk to embrace Trump more closely than ever as the re-elected president decorates his administration with oil industry shills and with crypto insiders whose energy-intensive mining rigs and data centers make them something of a natural complement to the fossil fuel industry's expansionist goals. But of course, it tracks with his general shifts in ideology and mission since the COVID era. So, first of all, not everybody who's in crypto thinks is anti-climate change or is a climate change denier. I believe climate change is real. I believe that we are in an unequivocal path towards not necessarily doom, but some pretty bad things, and that we need to be doing more, and we need to be doing more at the state level and at the corporate level. I'm not a big fan or a big believer in pushing down all the things on the individual and saying the individual should recycle and should take their reusable plastic bags and all that sort of stuff, because that's sort of rescinding responsibility to you and I. But I do think that it's important to caveat all that with people who maybe adhere to crypto in general, or who agree with some of its tenets, or work in it, research, or are close to the industry, don't necessarily agree with the idea that either Bitcoin or anything else is going to cook the planet. Scientific nerdery gave way to virus conspiracies, climate change took a backseat to his longtime AI fears as his former nonprofit OpenAI achieved staggering successes. Tesla's dangerous self-driving cars and dubious robotics earned priority over the electrification of transport. I like that, electrification of transport. Musk has been happy to re-embrace Bitcoin because incorporating the currency into Tesla's assets and accounting has allowed him to artificially boost the company's profit reports and keep investors happy. The earth is one thing, but revenue is another. I was talking to somebody who works at a research firm who was telling me that this has happened for eons, that companies will invest in other sorts of assets, not keep cash on hand because of inflation, but obviously to cover costs. So artificially boosting company profits is kind of true, but then it's been widely done and it doesn't make much sense for a company to keep on to a, what I want to call it, a melting currency like cash is, at least for companies. The core issue can be boiled down, pun intended, I'm going to guess, to the fact that Bitcoin mining is, to put it lightly, really, really, really bad for the environment. That's not true. This is primarily due to a system it relies on called proof of work. Take the computer servers with access to online blockchain protocols, set them up with high efficiency chips like those highly coveted GPUs in AI that can transmit more computing power at a faster rate, and run those servers 24/7 to solve the cryptographic puzzles required to unlock new Bitcoins. To replicate this operation at scale requires whole data centers worth of GPUs, which produce audible noise and require a lot of water to keep cool. A 2024 paper published in the journal Cell Reports Sustainability found that the water usage of US Bitcoin miners alone is as much as the average yearly water consumption of 300,000 households. On top of that, a single Bitcoin transaction uses enough water to fill a swimming pool. This has been widely debunked. I'd highly suggest, it's too long for this, I'd highly suggest Troy Cross. I'd highly suggest Batten. I don't remember his first name right now. I'm going to say Steve, but it's not Steve. There's the Bitcoin Policy Institute. There was a group of researchers coming out of the University of Iran who also have widely debunked all these energy intensive cases, or energy intensive, or just like outlandish claims like this. There's two things to keep in mind. Number one, when you think of Bitcoin mining, when you think of Bitcoin in general, you have to think of what value it offers. If you come from a country that has stable currency, that has a functioning rule of law, that have access to financial instruments, it might be hard for you to understand the value proposition of Bitcoin. If you come from authoritarian regimes, emerging markets, places where the currency isn't so stable, then it begins to make sense. Then the second thing is that why does Bitcoin use energy? That's because Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, thought, what is one of the ways to keep energy the most democratic, or to keep creation of money the most democratic? Burning a little bit of energy, because energy is quote unquote abundant. So everybody has to burn a little bit of energy to be able to compete in, or to be able to create money. Whereas right now, it's super centralized, a small group of people just click print, and that prints a wide margin more. This is something that I agree with, which is a classic trope that happens, or not trope, but classic talking point of the Bitcoin space. Why do I have to work my ass off to make money when there's people who just click a button and they can just create money? Questions. Much of the power used to keep these things running is sourced from fossil fuels. False, actually. I think, according to the Cambridge Center for Alternative Energy, something around 50 to 60% of the energy mix that goes into mining comes from renewable energy sources, with all the attendant emissions. It's been estimated that worldwide Bitcoin mining and transactions have consumed more power than countries like Finland each year. It's worrying enough that even Republican lawmakers in crypto-friendly red states like Arkansas have passed bills to regulate the digital asset industry's noise and air pollutions. Those efforts might be undercut should Trump carry through with an ill-advised campaign promise to ensure all Bitcoin is mined within US borders only. Ironically, however, his trade war with China has prevented American Bitcoin miners from securing needed equipment. So it's odd. In this article, you can clearly see that the person who wrote it is saying that... Whoops! Now would be a good time for you to subscribe. He's complaining about regulations and about Republican lawmakers wanting to pass regulations that will help keep industry pollution, noise, air in check. And then he makes this weird claim that Trump wants to mine all the Bitcoin in the US, which is, anybody who knows anything about Bitcoin knows that that's just ridiculous. And to push that through as an argument makes no fucking sense. The technocentric vision for Trump 2.0 was laid out in various written screeds from Musk's Silicon Valley friends at Andreessen Horowitz, the venture capital Hydra, and crypto funder, whose namesake founders became enthusiastic Trump converts and staffers this election cycle. Mark Andreessen's techno-optimist manifesto insisted upon building out an energy abundance instead of cutting back on any fossil fuel use. Ben Horowitz's Politics and the Future blog announcement pledged his support for any political candidate who believed, like he did, that crypto will create a fair, more inclusive economy. The duo's co-written Little Tech agenda all but declared war against the regulatory state in the wake of Biden administration attempts to impose tighter crypto regulations. That's very true, actually. And it's important to keep in mind, and everybody knows, I'm not in favor of any of these tech giants and techno-optimists. I'm not a techno-optimist. I believe that technology is just technology, a tool. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. I don't necessarily think it's going to lift up and equality or anything like, or inequality, or in some cases corruption, or all of that stuff, but it can help. With Andreessen himself having joined Musk in keenly advising Trump throughout the presidential transition, the new administration has gotten to work implementing all facets of the Andreessen-Horowitz blueprint. And yes, the crypto and energy policies are not incidental because top-down climate denial is hardly irrelevant to their goals. The Securities and Exchange Commission, now a far more crypto-friendly industry or agency under Trump, has also scrapped a Biden-era requirement for large companies to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions in depth. The president has once again withdrawn the U.S. from the Paris Agreement with no objection from Musk this round. Of course not, because there's money involved. There's financial incentives involved. So you might think that I'm all for Elon Musk and all of his gallivanting and pro-crypto stuff and electric. No, I don't like him, or I'm not a big fan of him as much as the next guy. But I do think that we need to put everything on the table. In fact, his already infamous Department of Governmental Efficiency has been targeting the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency for data purges, grant freezes, and mass firing. It's not a coincidence that Musk is doing this under the aegis of a fake department that's named for the Dogecoin cryptocurrency and was staffed with Mark Andreessen's help. I completely agree. Doge is kind of absurd. The idea that it's named Doge is a meme in and of itself. I do think it's highly dangerous, the amount of social help and support and institutions that they're tearing apart. This is insane what they're doing. Also not a coincidence that the primary zero carbon energy source the new Department of Energy is interested in expanding is nuclear power, a fixation of both Andreessen and Horowitz's. Why is that? It's a good way to thumb their noses at misguided environmentalists who protested fission plants after the 3 Mile Island meltdown. Also, they want more data and mining centers to be powered by nuclear power specifically. I'm no energy expert, to be honest. But as far as I know, expanding nuclear power isn't necessarily a bad thing. There are a bunch of disasters, there's a bunch of messes, there's catastrophes that have happened across the world. But as far as I know, it's not all that bad as the people who are anti-nuclear energy make it out to be. Leave me a comment below if you agree or you don't agree. While purges of NOAA and EPA, the energy or the agencies I spoke of before, are troubling for many reasons, one of the biggest is that they've censored key resources for tracking American energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Those who have been especially useful markers for independent researchers surveying and tracking how America utilizes its energy, both dirty and clean. There's Digiconomist, the much-cited project from Dutch economist Alex de Vries that keeps a public monitor of Bitcoin's mining, environmental, and emissions impacts. This is a big fucking red flag because Alex de Vries has been widely discredited by both climate enthusiasts who are anti-crypto as well as climate enthusiasts who are pro-crypto as having an agenda. He's a central banker who has been paid by shady, apparently, interests. That's as far as what I've reported on or that I've researched to be able to do all these hit pieces on Bitcoin. You should, if you want to keep any semblance of credibility, you should never, ever cite Alex de Vries unless you want to use them as an example of things not to do. This is a big no-no. There's also the fact that this data affects the pricing and regulation of agricultural commodities. And since Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be considered commodities like gold and silver, it will be the agricultural focused members of Congress who lead legislative oversight. What could go wrong? I'm not sure if that's true, though. I don't know, but it doesn't ring true that they're going to be the ones that like oversee Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Besides I think Bitcoin is the only one who's been considered a commodity, and so to add in other cryptocurrencies and sort of suggest that they're going to, because obviously there's a long tail of scams that follow Bitcoin. Some would argue that every single one after Bitcoin is a scam. He's kind of making the claim that how will Congress, who are agriculture focused, be able to deal with that long tail? But until now, it's only been Bitcoin. Digital asset evangelists are especially sensitive to the climate critiques, which popped up time and time again during the pandemic era crypto bubble as myriad celebrities, even the nominally environmentalist one, got in on the grift. Some crypto ventures, like the alternative currency and blockchain Ethereum, shifted to coin mining methods that were far less energy intensive. But Bitcoin truthers and like-minded users are dedicated to their all systems go all the time approach. Why should the government make it easier for anyone to scrutinize and call out their electricity needs? Why should banks and other firms express any skepticism over cryptocurrency's actual value and take the time to meet their climate and environmental goals when they could just be forced to mine this stuff instead? Trump himself has been cozying up to the stuff in increasingly concerning ways, from a disastrous meme coin to a coin hoarding private venture to the establishment of a crypto arm for his Truth Social network. Dedicated data centers and all. No better way to ensure regulatory capture than to grant the president his own funny money. I agree with this last bit. I also think that just like the government should be able to scrutinize and call out the industry, crypto industry, and other industries' electrical needs, we should also be able to call out the government's crypto energy needs. The military industrial complex. Has anybody talked about that? The healthcare industry, banking and the financial industry. Don't see you calling them out anywhere there. But I digress, as usual. To that end, why should the government do anything to oppose the financial innovation tech in which some powerful VCs just so happen to have staked millions of dollars? If the consequence happens to be a hotter, less inhabitable Earth, so be it. At least the crypto mavens will have their digital riches to isolate them from the real-world consequences of those decisions. But, I mean, this is fundamental bullshit. It's so frustrating to put anybody or everybody who's some sort of crypto, and I say this because I'm a journalist who covers the crypto industry. I say that and they immediately assume that I am a climate change denier because of these type of articles. it would be nice for these kind of reporters to speak to regular, everyday crypto users, not calling myself one necessarily, but others, and see what they have to think about this. Like I said, there's a massive, massive group of climate change people. Margot Pais, shout out, who does some brilliant work, who are against this kind of stuff and who agree with Nitish's position. So we don't want this to be a less inhabitable Earth. It doesn't necessarily translate to that. There's been doomsdayers saying all sorts of stuff about crypto and mining and energy for years. Has any of it come true? I'll let you be the judge of that. True believers in crypto have often championed it as the answer to so many of our financial, political, and even cultural woes. It's decentralized, giving money and power back to the people without having to rely on evil banks or governments. It allows anyone to keep their money safe from inflation and the finicky, unpredictable economy. So what if it takes a few million gallons of water and untold amounts of greenhouse gases pumped into the atmosphere each year? This is the currency of the future. It's just too bad that there might not be a habitable future to spend it in. Wow. I'm going to give this a 4.9 because, well, I should actually give it maybe even less, because once you put in Alex DeVries, Digiconomist, you immediately should drop to half the possibility. Like, you're operating immediately on a 1 to 5 scale. I'm just going to put that out there. Then number 2, it doesn't necessarily take a few million gallons of water. In fact, there's a bunch of evidence and a bunch of Bitcoin miners who use reusable water, for example, from spas and from other sources that use water to be able to power the Bitcoin mining, recycling that exact resource. Bitcoin mining actually has the possibility of unlocking a bunch of different energy sources, renewable or stranded around the world, that right now doesn't get used. So, and yes, decentralized, giving money and power back to people so they don't have to rely on evil banks or governments, the ones who wreak havoc around the world, who fund illegal wars, who are super corrupted, who allow for deportation of legal or of just migrants in general. And then, the list is endless and endless. Yes, there's value in that. Is there value in keeping people safe from inflation? Yes. And in protecting from a finicky, unpredictable economy? Yes. Does it give millions of gallons of water? No. Does it add untold amounts of greenhouse gases? I'm going to end on this, or I'm going to end on 2 things. So one is head to the Cambridge Center for Alternative Energy, and you can be able to see the energy mix that goes into that. And then take a look at how much of the energy industry is impacted by Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Last time I checked, which was last year, granted, it was less than 0.1%, or something around there. So I don't think it has that big of an impact. And just remember, 60% of that 0.1% is renewable energy sources. So it's not entirely what he's saying here at all. And just to round this off, Bitcoin mining, all it needs is an energy source and an internet connection. With that, it can function. There's a big problem with renewable energy, is that a lot of it is far away in remote places, away from large population centers and from the energy grid. Bitcoin mining can plug into those, convert that stranded or lost energy into money, and send that money in the form of Bitcoin around the world, around different societies, fund social projects, fund renewable energy plans, and start the transition actually to a greener future or a less carbon heavy future. So yeah, things to think about. I gave it my notes. I'm kind of dabbled. Don't forget to subscribe. Give us a subscribe. This is interesting stuff. I know you think so. I know I think so. I know everybody thinks so. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Chainspotting. Choose your news.